Mic check 1 2. Microphone check 1 2. CJK, Phil Bond, good to see you. Don Spain, welcome in, my friend. Tony N. About today's top crime news. We'll go through all of that. I'm going to spend some time looking at what is a sexual sadist and what leads to an opportunistic murder. Jill Moser, what's up? And anything else you guys want to talk about? So let's get it started. Song of the day. So you all know Melissa's mom passed away yesterday. Sorry to hear that. How you doing, Phil? Feel like I missed you the last couple streams. All right, so here are some of the news stories that are hitting the airwaves right now. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, massive police raid. A large-scale operation by about 2,500 police and soldiers targeted the gang Commando Vermelho in the favelas of Pena and Complexo de Alameo. At least 64 people killed, including 4 police officers, 81 arrested, 93 rifles seized, and half a ton of drugs. The death toll may be even higher. Some count 119 or 132. This is one of the most deadliest anti-gang operations in recent memory in Brazil and raises major human rights concerns about policing methods. I thought that this story was interesting coming right off the heels of the news of the CIA entering into Venezuela. Doesn't seem to be a very good time to be in the cartel. Hopefully those days are coming to an end. A lot of pain and suffering comes from the cartel. A lot of true crime stories come directly or are directly related to drug cartels, even in the Midwest. They set up shop all over the U.S., all over the world, really. But I mean, the United States is definitely their number one customer. We're like the rich cokehead at the party, as far as countries are concerned. Our drug appetite is insatiable, unquenchable, unquenching. Yeah, so today we had planned to go down and kind of do some snooping in the Emily Pike case. However, the highways were definitely shut down, so we couldn't do that. Unfortunately, we were going to go live on the way there. We had a couple stops we were going to make, and I just planned to do a lot of filming on location for you guys. I know some of you are keeping a close eye out on that case. I don't know. I'm hoping that they make an arrest soon. Just like the Mount Ord murder, they had their eyes on a suspect pretty much from the beginning. They just weren't able to go public with it because they didn't collect enough information. Makes you wonder about Richard Allen as well. How long did they know about him? Did they know about him from the beginning? Is that why Robert Ives said, I thought this was going to be solved, in 4 days? Because it should have been. All right, see what else we got. Paris, France. Been busy at work lately, so on the last few shows, I've had to be on replay crew. Well, thanks for being on the replay crew. I appreciate that. Dropping comments, sharing the videos really helps. All right, let's go to a story out of Paris, France. Arrest in the Louvre Museum jewel heist. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Louvre. Louvre. Bonsoir, Patty. 5 more suspects were arrested in connection with the October 19th robbery of the Louvre, where jewels worth approximately 100 million were stolen. This shit is straight out of a Hollywood movie right here. The Louvre heist. The Louvre Museum heist. A high-profile cultural property theft with international attention, demonstrating the sophistication of organized art theft crime. There's probably a lot of people involved in that for sure. San Francisco, sexual assault in a public park restroom. Police are investigating 3 possible suspects in a recent sexual assault of a child in a restroom at Golden Gate Park. Let's put this one up on the screen here. Maybe we can zoom in on that. What the hell? I clicked on it and it just doubled up. San Francisco PD closes in on 3 possible suspects in Golden Gate Park restroom sexual assault on child. Now, we can expect a single opportunistic crime, right? But this is obviously an organized ambush of a kid here. Another reason why you can't let your children go to the restrooms alone, even like in a busy restaurant. You think it's safe. Yeah, restrooms down the hallway. You'll be fine. There are people being sexually assaulted in grocery stores, in public restrooms. Shit, I don't know how many times Walmart has reported a sexual assault in their bathroom. And it's always some weird creep. They kind of talk funny. They seem socially awkward. Let's learn a little bit more here. San Francisco police were investigating 3 possible suspects in connection with a sexual assault on a child at a Golden Gate Park restroom last week, a police official said. The investigators were awaiting DNA results as part of the department's effort to confirm the identity of the assailant. That's disgusting if they had DNA. We know what that means. Who took a girl into a restroom near a polo field and groped her? Richmond Station Captain Kevin Lee said. As soon as the evidence comes back, after it gets analyzed, we can pinpoint, hopefully, one of those suspects that we have in mind that we believe is responsible for this heinous crime. Lee said late Tuesday afternoon during the station's monthly meeting with community members held at Congregation Emmanuel. It's kind of a weird spelling. Lee didn't elaborate on the evidence police obtained as part of the investigation, which the department was treating as a priority. Expediting the DNA analysis, generally, DNA evidence takes a long time. Well, we're still waiting for the DNA in the Evansdale case. We're still waiting for the DNA in the West Memphis 3 case. I mean, how long does it take? I always thought it takes about 4 to 6 weeks, but I could be wrong. Let's find out. Let's see. The time it takes for law enforcement to receive DNA results can vary widely depending on factors like the type of analysis. Reference samples from suspects versus complex crime scene evidence. The technology used, lab backlog logs, case priority, homicide versus property crime, and jurisdictional resources. In the U.S., national backlogs often exceed 500,000 unprocessed samples, primarily from sexual assault kits. Well, what if it's fast tracked like the Evansdale case? Automated portable machines for high quality reference samples or simple evidence used at booking stations or scenes. The fuck? Two to 8 weeks. So why haven't we gotten the results back in the Evansdale case? We can't get a clear answer. Okay, it could take 4 to 12 weeks. For complex cold case retests includes validation. Iowa's lab has reduced backlogs via federal funding. So mixture statistics like likelihood ratio. So 4 to 12 weeks. Hasn't it been 4 to 12 weeks? Like, what the fuck is taking so long? What's up, J Ray? Red Queen, Frank Meister. What's going on, everybody? Okay, so this case in San Francisco, they had a suspect. They have a suspect right away, right? They're looking at him. They're trying to build a case. Their gut tells them it's this guy. So why in Delphi wasn't Rick Allen's name on a short list, right? Should have been on a short list. A dozen people, less than a dozen. How many men were on the trails between 1:45 and 3? It had to be a short list. Why wasn't Richard Allen's name on that list? There's only two possible answers. It was on that list, or the people who were conducting the investigation were really, really bad at their job. And I hate to say that, but that seems to be the truth. So either they're lying and Richard Allen was on that list from the very beginning, and the whole lost tip narrative is just something they did to hide the fact that they illegally obtained his name and information from Kagan Klein. I mean, we know Jerry Holman was aware of Richard Allen's name and who he was and his part as far as a witness, right? Told Dan Doolin I got there at 1:30, left around 3. Well, that's a perfect window for the killer. Why is he not at the top of some list, right? Robert Ives said, well, I thought we were going to get this thing solved in 4 days. Well, in 4 days, they had the name of Richard Allen. You know, they had him. I don't understand why there wasn't a secondary interview, why there wasn't a search warrant. This is either a cover up or the biggest group of fuck ups to ever take on a high profile case. Which is it, guys? What is the explanation for what happened in Delphi? They say don't attribute to corruption what could don't attribute to malice what could be attributed to incompetence. What's up, GP? It just doesn't make sense. Because Holman is involved in another case where he knows who committed the murders. He's known from the very beginning. Yet he doesn't have enough evidence to make an arrest. He knows the people that were there. He has not a very good witness, but a witness that says helped bury the body. And this is a separate case from 2016. I don't know. Just makes you wonder. And there's no positive outcome. If they suck at their job, that's horrible because a lot of people suffered and a lot of answers still remain hidden. We still don't know these answers. Makes you wonder, do they even know? Are they hiding them? Do they know other people that are involved? Or are they just bad? Are they just bad at their job? And I don't know if you guys are following this case. Ex-deputy Sean Gray. You guys been following this one? What's up, CJK? Grayson was convicted on second-degree murder charges. Sean Grayson, a former Sangamon County Sheriff's deputy, has been found guilty of second-degree murder in the July 2024 shooting death of Sonia Massey. Massey, a 36-year-old mother of two, had called 911 because she feared an intruder was in her home. Grayson was charged with first-degree murder, but the jury was given the option of convicting him on second-degree charges instead. Former sheriff's deputy in Illinois has been found guilty of murder and killing of Sonia Massey, a black woman who was shot after calling 911 because she feared an intruder was in her home. Sean Grayson, 31, who is white, was convicted on second-degree murder charges on Wednesday, October 29th, according to the Associated Press and NBC News. So I feel like that might be a good idea, right? When there's too much pressure on the jury, they need some kind of a compromise, between a not guilty and appeasing the victim's family. Like, hey, we don't want to charge them with first degree murder, but they don't have second degree murder on the table. We know he had previously been charged with first degree murder, but jurors were given the option to convict on lesser second degree charges. Other charges of aggravated battery and official misconduct were previously dropped. While we believe Grayson's actions deserved a first-degree conviction, today's verdict is still a measure of justice for Sonia Massey. Massey family attorneys Ben Crump and Antonio Romanucci said in a statement after the verdict, accountability has begun, and we now hope the court will impose a meaningful sentence that reflects the severity of these crimes and the life that was lost. I mean, there is no justice. There's no such thing as a justice system. CJK. Many are upset it wasn't first degree. Well, it makes me think of the Kaylee Anthony case. Casey got off. All they put on there was first degree murder, and they weren't able to make it stick, right? The defense attorney brought up too many points that it just couldn't have been first degree murder. If she had anything to do with the death of Kaylee, it was something different, right? It was like a negligence or second degree murder or something along those lines. Well, because they couldn't get the first degree murder to stick, she walked. And I think even double jeopardy ended up applying. But I bet you if there was something else on the table for the jury, she would have been in jail for quite a bit. But yeah, this is not justice. There's no such thing as justice, really. He has a history of being overzealous, for lack of a better word. Let's look at this story from the New York Post. I mean, this shit's never going to end. The hell? Let me know if it's getting all choppy on your end. Some of these websites that I pull off, their ads are so horrible that it just kind of bogs everything down. It's kind of annoying, actually. Sicko sexually assaults elderly woman in unspeakable Louisiana cat burglary. What the? I think that's him right there in the front. This guy. Yep. Yep. The fuck? A sicko sexually assaulted an elderly woman in her bedroom after breaking into her Long Island home during an unspeakable cat burglary. J. Warren Booker, 29, allegedly climbed through the bedroom window of a 74-year-old victim's apartment in Holbrook between 6 and 7 a.m. October 24th and attacked her when she came to check on the commotion. Yeah, that's not a cat burglary. This is some behavior very similar to the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez in California. J. Warren Booker allegedly climbed through the window of a 74-year-old victim's apartment in Holbrook, confronting her before violently, physically, and sexually assaulting her. I mean, think about how sick this guy must be. First, he's in a home that he doesn't belong. What brought him to that point? And then you see this poor, helpless woman there, and somehow you're sexually attracted? We're talking about a senior citizen here. Like, how do you become him? How does this happen? Anybody that can do something like that is definitely capable of murder, in my opinion. Yeah, definitely not a cat burglar. Travelers warned against criminals targeting Cape Town International Airport. See what else we got here. 30-year-old murder solved by the FBI. Let's take a look at that. This is the kind of news that I like. CJK, disgusting, preyed on the vulnerable. Yeah, something tells me he knew that she lived there. I just don't understand how somebody could do that. Like, how does that idea even get into their head? 30-year-old murder solved. Fingerprint technology played a key role. Let's take a look at this. In 1978, 61-year-old Carol Burnett was stabbed to death in his apartment. Police collected evidence, including latent fingerprints and palm prints from the victim's bathroom. Officers believe the killer was trying to wash off blood and other evidence before leaving the apartment. The victim's car was then stolen. Oh no, you're not lying about that, CJK. There's a nursing home right up the street from my dad's house, over there in Mesa, Arizona, and one of these workers was sexually assaulting a woman that was in a coma, and I think she was like in her late 40s. And they didn't even notice. They when they found out that she was pregnant, she was already like 6 months or something like that. Like, it was the craziest thing I had ever heard. So this guy was raping her and impregnated her. And now the family members of the victim are raising the child, which I think is really sweet. You know, God works in mysterious ways. You know, you have the devil who is trying to corrupt everything that we do. And thankfully, you know, everything that's been bad can be turned into a good. If you can turn a curse into a blessing, you're basically reversing the magic, the black magic. Because that's all the devil's trying to do. He's trying to take something that's good and turn it into a curse. So if we can turn a curse into something good, you're basically reversing whatever's been done. The investigation. The car was found in Illinois, but after collecting additional latent prints, investigators couldn't develop any new leads. The crime scene evidence was processed and latent prints recovered from the scene, and the car was searched against local and state fingerprint files. Investigators also sent fingerprint requests to agencies outside of Nebraska, but no matches were returned, and the case soon went cold. The reinvestigation. In late 2008, the Omaha Police Department received an inquiry on the case, prompting technician Laura Casey to search the prints against IAFIS, which doesn't exist in 1978. In less than 5 hours, IAFIS returned possible candidates for comparison purposes. Casey spent days carefully examining the prints and came up with a positive identification. Jerry Watson, who was serving time in an Illinois prison for burglary charges. Let's go to this YouTube video here. The case was officially reopened and assigned to Cold Case Squad's Doug Heraut, working with laboratory technicians and analysts. Heraut reviewed the original evidence from the case, including a classified advertisement flyer with Jerry W. scribbled on one of the pages. Heraut also discovered Jerry Watson had lived only a few blocks from where the victim's car was recovered. Remember, even if the killer doesn't realize it, everything that they're doing points right at them. Every choice that they make, right? Down to from the dump site, where they're going to leave their vehicle, how they're going to stage the crime scene, how they pick their targets, everything. There's a coded message there that they leave. And these investigators are trying to decode that. But the only person who has the key to the coded message is the killer, who is the real crime scene expert. There is nobody with more knowledge about that certain crime, why, the motivation, why the victims were targeted, why certain things were done during the murder, why certain things were used during the murder, the sexual aspect of it all. Nobody knows more about a specific crime than the perpetrator, right? So they're going to know how to hide from it, how to avoid, how to become compartmentalized to better conceal themselves from it. Well, let's take a look at this guy. Latent Hit of the Year.
The FBI Latent Hit of the Year is awarded annually to an outstanding latent examiner or officer who solved a major violent crime by using the FBI's IAFIS database. 2012, Laura Casey and Doug Heraut.
I just realized that name kind of sounds funny. Dug her out. Man, they must have made fun of him in college.
Carol
Dug
Bond was
her
a
out.
61-year-old male.
He worked at Clarkson Hospital. He didn't show up for work for a few days. That's what brought the attention to him being a missing person.
And when employees went to check on him, they observed that he was deceased.
He was killed in his apartment in downtown Omaha back in 1978.
I was early in my career. I was 28 years old. I was called in to assist with evidence collection and also the latent print processing.
There was a print on the medicine cabinet, and there was also a print on the rear side of the bathroom door. Within the scene, there were other items of evidence that were located. There were towels that were on the floor. There was a garbage can in the living room that had several cigarette butts. There was a trash can in the kitchen that had a Budweiser can. There was a thrifty nickel paper that was near the body.
And there was a note there left by the suspect, kind of a taunting, catch me if you can type note.
It stated, I'm leaving this crime with only one clue. Find it yourself, pig, die pig.
Was it a serial killer? There's a lot of different theories about what that could be, but they knew that they should be looking for a clue for sure.
But they were never able to identify what that clue was. The victim's vehicle was a 1964 Buick.
It was stolen right after the homicide.
And it was actually located in Cicero, Illinois.
When his car was discovered up in Cicero, it was thought, well, you know, maybe we really do have somebody who was more transient and then took off with his car.
And so it appeared to be sort of random.
In the weeks following and actually months and years following, there was a lot of prints that we compared. As time went on, no identification.
And all of their leads came up empty.
The farther it gets away and the narrower the field of people who know the suspect, the percentage goes down. There's always exceptions, but in this case, you know, it took a long time myself on that print.
I used that same very good quality print and entered it into IAFIS. And when I first got that hit, I yelled to my coworkers, I think I have a hit on this cold case. I got the hard copy of the fingerprints from the FBI. I did recompare
It's like, we got you.
crime scene latent
We got your ass.
the fingerprints, determined that yes, it was an identification. It had Mike Stone's initials on the back of the lift, so I immediately knew he had been the one to develop it.
She said, hey, I identified.
That's awesome. See what else we got here. I think there was another story I wanted to talk with you guys about. Where the hell did I put that? Oh, here it is, the Bridgeport man. Bridgeport man convicted in 2021 double murder. This is a pretty short article here. 29-year-old Bridgeport man accused of killing his girlfriend and his father's best friend 4 years ago will be sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison after a jury convicted him of the most serious charges against him Wednesday. Day and a half of deliberations, the jury of 7 men and 5 women found Tariq Francis guilty of murder in the deaths of 19-year-old Candace Goodwin and 59-year-old Austin Berger, September 9th of 2021. Yeah, that's awful. At least they threw a book at him. Don says there has been some updates in the Jennifer Kessie case. They have narrowed the list of suspects down to 4 or 5. Let's take a look. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's all over the news here. Here, let's pull up the Daily Mail. Maybe something with less ads. Let's try News Nation.
By the state of Florida. Since then, the Orlando Police Department has handed the case files over to the family, who've now hired a private investigator hoping for answers. They also enlisted the help of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the FDLE, which is now heading the investigation. And today, the FDLE announced, "We have conducted more than 50 interviews, reviewed tens of thousands of documents and pieces of evidence from the Orlando Police Department, and worked hundreds of hours, not only re-examining the past investigation, but also developing new avenues that need to be explored to help bring answers to Jennifer's parents and loved ones." I'm joined now by Jennifer's father, Drew Kessie. Drew, thank you so much for being on. I'm so sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. I can't imagine what these anniversaries are like, and this one's 19 years. New avenues. When I see we are developing new avenues, I get hopeful. Do you?
Yes, and thank you for the time. Good evening. That was the first time I heard that statement, to be quite honest with you, and that was a very positive statement in my eyes, to be quite honest. FDLE finally, after 18 years, got involved, and it took them a little while to get going, but boy, they're going now, and I think that it's Jennifer's time in the lineup, I guess, to either be found or not found, but they are truly putting all the resources that they have.
All right, let's take a look here. What's new in the case? The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which took over this cold case from Orlando Police Department in 2022, has informed the family that the case is no longer cold. The family reports that the FDLE has narrowed this list of persons of interest to just a few individuals. A ground-penetrating radar scan is expected or has been planned at a site theorized by family to potentially hold remains, which is seen as a possible breakthrough. The family publicly posted updates on October 21st, 2025, expressing renewed optimism and confirming active investigative work. Well, that is great news. This has a creepy video of a perp walking by the fence. What the? Let's see. Okay, I see that here. This is a David Lore YouTube channel. Is that what you're referring to, Don? Says here, person of interest, and he seems to be walking by a swimming pool. Oh, that sucks. It's not very good. You can kind of see he has a weird haircut, like a bowl cut. Yeah, he has a specific haircut, though. See if we can zoom in on that. Doesn't seem too short of a person. Here, let's try that. Yeah, what's going on with that haircut? Should be able to get a pretty good idea of shoe size. Feet aren't very small. Seems like this person's kind of tall, too. Lengthy. Legs seem long. Wonder how tall this fence is. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this quick little live stream. I have something planned for you a little bit later today. I'm not done putting that together, so I will see you guys a little bit later. Just had some downtime. Like I said, we were going to go investigate the Emily Pike case. But it looks like they have the road shut down. So we're going to reschedule that for this weekend. But you should probably catch us live on the way there, on the way back. Maybe we'll go live once we get into the San Carlos reservation where Emily's from. I don't know if we will go live from the actual scene where they found her body. We might if we have time. But we're going to definitely take a lot of footage, a lot of video for you guys, and we'll do our best to bring you along with us. Send me an email if you'd like to get a hold of me at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Remember, you can always hit the Cash App. If you can't do that, hit the like button. Maybe even go share the video if you're feeling froggy. And I'll catch you guys a little bit later. Take care. Peace.